Hello friends and welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am your host Tom Downey. Let's talk training camp because it's almost here for the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to preview some notable camp battles, and if there really isn't an obvious camp battle, some players to watch at every position for the Dallas Cowboys this year. Let's start with quarterback. Where else? Let's go in order of operations here. That is the backup quarterback job because Cooper Rush and Mike White ain't taking over for Dak Prescott anytime soon. But it is going to be an open battle for the backup quarterback role this year. Now, Cooper Rush held that job this past year. He has a slight edge for now, but this is very much an open competition at the moment. He is battling, meanwhile, with Mike White. Now, White has more upside, a little bit more of a prototypical quarterback in terms of where he was drafted and some of his size there. There is upside there with Mike White, but let's not kid ourselves. Neither of these guys were even competent during the preseason this time last year. So for White and for Rush, it is an open battle. Now, I am sure many of you feel the way I do. I don't feel that confident in either player. If Dak Prescott goes down, the reality is Cooper Rush and Mike White, it's probably not going to work out there in the end. Now, my hope here is that both Rush and White are better than what they were last year. You saw a good preseason in 2017 from Cooper Rush, but last year, they were awful. Now, I think a big part of that was because the Cowboys' offensive line depth last year was absolutely terrible. Chaz Green was your best one, and he was a walking turnstile. So with better offensive line play, I think those numbers go up. But it is going to be an open battle here. And I'll make note, because this did just come across the news line for the Dallas Cowboys, that they have added a fourth quarterback. Taron Christian, an undrafted rookie free agent out of South Dakota State. I'm sorry, Christian. I think he's just going to be a camp arm. We play this game every single... We played it last year with Dalton Sturm. Hey, he might make the roster. He might make the practice squad. Backup quarterback. I doubt it. Look, he didn't complete 60% of his passes at South Dakota State. I watched a little bit of him leading up to the NFL draft. Cooper Rush and Mike White are better. Now, if you want to make the argument that Christian has a chance just because Rush and White weren't very good, I agree with that. And I'm open to having more backup competition. I just don't think Christian is going to be the guy. So who do you want as the Cowboys' backup quarterback? Type R for Cooper Rush and W for Mike White. Type O in the comments section if you want somebody else. That can be Christian. That can be an unsigned free agent. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. There isn't really much of a battle at running back. Sure, Mike Weber, Darius Jackson, and Tony Pollard all kind of competing, but I am far more interested in just seeing what Tony Pollard brings. He is the frontrunner for that backup running back spot for the Dallas Cowboys, and at minimum, he should help on special teams. After all, he's pretty darn fast. My biggest question, and this is not just about Tony Pollard, more on the coaching staff, is can Kellen Moore use Pollard in a creative way in space that gets the ball in his hands after we all saw Callahan fail to actually do that this past year? Now, Pollard, again, a fourth-round pick out of Memphis, brings the juice and the speed that the Cowboys haven't really had outside of maybe Tavon Austin over the past couple of years. But I do want to pump the brakes here at least just a little bit, because Tony Pollard has never been a featured player for Memphis. And in most cases, there are exceptions. Pollard might be that exception. But in most cases, if you weren't the guy at college, you're normally not going to be the guy in the NFL. Look, he had 139 career carries. He didn't top 1,000 yards in his entire career. Now, a big portion of that was because he's playing behind this guy named Darrell Henderson, who's also really, really good. But Pollard does bring you ability in the receiving game. My ideal role for Tony Pollard, you guys remember Lance Dunbar, right? The Cowboys never really replaced him. I think Tony Pollard can be your Lance Dunbar type guy. Get him in space, let him catch patches out of the backfield, and cut down on Zeke's usage some too, because you don't want him touching the ball almost 400 times. So I do think Pollard is going to be your backup running back, but there is still all of camp. Pollard could get hurt. Pollard could just not play well. Mike Weber could be great. Darius Jackson could explode. Jordan Chun exists too. So it is still plenty of time for players to prove me wrong and right and impress and regress and all of that. But Pollard, I think, is going to be your backup running back. We'll see just how big of an impact though he actually makes. Biggest key for him, getting a good first start in training camp. All right, guys, we're doing this premiere, so if you like it, I mean, hey, let's make sure you're subscribed. The link is below, but you're watching on YouTube right now, and if you're on Facebook, of course, the link is there. But if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're approaching that 30K mark, and we know there are a lot of you that watch the show but actually aren't subscribed, which is kind of weird to me. But I mean, weird flex, but okay. So if you're in that group, go ahead and subscribe. Get us to that 30K mark. We just passed 28K. Let's get to 30 now. Move then to wide receiver, one of the best camp battles I think we're going to have for the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, they cut Allen Hurns yesterday. In reality for Dallas, there are 3 roster locks on this team at receiver. There are only 3 locks. That leaves about 3 spots. And I assume they carry 6. They could carry 5. They could carry 7. Those are possibilities. I think 6 is far more likely, though. So your 3 locks, and really no, well, I guess in order, kind of. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and Randall Cobb. That leaves these players you see on your screen: Tavon Austin, Cedrick Wilson, Noah Brown, Lance Lenoir, Jon'Vea Johnson, Jalen Guyton, Devin Smith, and Reggie Davis, in no particular order, all fighting for what I think is going to be 3 spots. Let's break down all these receivers here. First up is Tavon Austin, who caught 8 passes last year, but 2 of them did go for scores. Long gone are the days of Stephen Jones, I still think he meant snaps, but saying Tavon was going to get the ball a dozen to 2 dozen times per game. I still think he meant snaps because touches never ever made sense there. But he brings you speed and return ability. Injuries are a factor there. My oh my, how quickly the fan base has turned on Tavon based on my mentions. But I think of all the guys we're going to discuss, he has the best chance to make the roster. Let's move then to Cedrick Wilson, who was once everybody's favorite late round / UDFA draft pick last year. Then he got hurt, and the Cowboys in reality stashed him on IR for a season. I like the upside of Wilson. I had a higher than 6th round grade on him coming out of Boise State. We know how Dallas likes their Boise State players as well. He's got a chance. He has to stay healthy, though, and that's also true for Noah Brown, who I believe is going to start camp, at least for the time being, on that PUP list coming off a knee scope there. Injuries have been an issue for Noah Brown, but I like that he does more than just the basics for you. He offers you ability as a blocker, as an inside-outside receiver, and on special teams too. And when you're building the bottom of your roster, you need those guys, and Noah Brown fits that role. Next up, Jon'Vea Johnson, who everybody loves now because he's fast, which I get. The Cowboys do need more speed. Every year, there's an undrafted free agent wide receiver. Sometimes they actually end up being really good, Miles Austin. Other times, it just doesn't really work out. And a couple of recent examples on that end. But for Johnson, there were droppage at Toledo, had them at minicamp and OTAs as well, but the Cowboys don't have a ton of speed. And Jon'Vea Johnson brings you plenty of speed. There is, I think, a role on the roster for a player like Johnson as a deep threat. Cedrick Wilson, not as fast, but a great deep ball tracker. Tavon Austin, great speed as well. One of those guys, I think, makes the roster. Next up is Lance Lenoir, who, I mean, if you guys have watched the show for over a year now, you guys know how I feel about Lance Lenoir. Kind of don't get it. The staff has long liked him, and I guess on some level I understand that he offers special teams value, although he constantly muffs punts in preseason, so I don't like that either. But I will make note. Allen Hurns is gone. Had he been on the roster, he probably would have been your backup slot receiver. Guess what Lance Lenoir is? He's a slot receiver, and he offers special teams value, and the coaching staff likes him. So I probably wouldn't put him on my roster, but I do see a path to him making it this year for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go back to another former UDFA, this one a current one, I guess. Jalen Guyton, who, much like Jon'Vea Johnson, brings you speed. Also had drop issues at North Texas. That's kind of why he and Johnson went undrafted. Now, former highly touted recruit, went to Notre Dame, transferred back to North Texas. I think he's been overlooked because of the love for Johnson, which I get, but I wouldn't sleep on Guyton either. Let's stick with our theme of speed. That's what Devin Smith brings. These are his career numbers. Former second-round pick out of Ohio State. Maybe this is the year he all puts it together. Typically, though, you don't see 4th-year breakouts at receiver or whatever. I think it's 4 years now for Devin Smith. Not great target to reception numbers, but if he wows as a deep threat, again, I think there's a spot on the roster for that. And then again, you know, it's a common theme here, right, guys? Reggie Davis, guess what he brings? He's fast. He's also a $170. So that's a little bit light for my taste there. Spends time on the practice squad. Sangelo had some praise for him, saying he really improved. But I think of all the guys we discussed, he might be the longest shot to make the roster this year for the Cowboys. So let's say there are 3 spots available. Which 3 receivers are you keeping? You can have any combination of Noah Brown, Tavon Austin, Lance Lenoir, Cedrick Wilson, Jon'Vea Johnson, and then I'll put other in there just to kind of group together Davis and Guyton and Smith. But let me know what you guys think there in the comments section. Which 3 receivers, Brown, Austin, Lenoir, Wilson, Johnson, everybody else there, would you keep if you were in charge of the Dallas Cowboys? Moving now to tight end, I guess Witten. I just want to see what he has, you know? Obviously, we saw minicamp and OTAs, but training camp's a whole different beast, so is the preseason. The Cowboys have kind of hyped up his return of, oh, he's faster now than he was last time, because we are now, folks, in the middle of best shape of life season, one of my favorite football seasons. Because no player ever says when they get to camp, gosh, you know what? I'm fat now. Like, I took the offseason off, I didn't do anything, I'm out of shape. They always say, I'm in great shape, best shape of my life. So that's where we are now, Jason Witten. Maybe it's true. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. I just want to see what he still has. Now, I don't think, and I feel pretty confident saying this, and it's not really a hot take either, you're not going to get prime Jason Witten. You're probably not going to get past 4 seasons Jason Witten. Those receptions are going to go to other players, some of them at tight end. You will see more of Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz than you saw of the other backups when Witten was still with the Cowboys before he retired the first time. So I want to see what Witten brings to this team. I expect it's going to be some good enough blocking there because Jarwin and Schultz weren't that great last year, frankly. And he'll somehow, some way get open on 4th down, or on 3rd down. That's just what Jason Witten does. The Y option, folks, it's back on the menu this year for the Dallas Cowboys. Speaking of menus, today is National Drive-Thru Day. So, what is your favorite fast food? Let me know in the comments section. Of course, we're doing this on the premiere, so I'll respond in the comments while we're on that premiere live. I waffle back and forth. Obviously, Whataburger's fantastic. I used to be a big Taco Bell guy. I actually don't do that much fast food anymore. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. McDonald's a great choice. I used to love Burger King, but then Burger King became bad, and I don't really go to it anymore. Moving now to the offensive line. I'm looking at that left guard spot because that is going to be really one of the few starting spots that is legitimately up for grabs in camp and in the preseason. Now, last year, Connor Williams was handed the job. That is not the case this time around. Now, the good news is, after a disappointing first year, Williams has bulked up this offseason, and he might get some offensive tackle, which I think would be good for his long-term fits there. Meanwhile, the return of Travis Frederick is going to really help whoever starts at left guard. Could be Connor Williams, could also be Connor McGovern, the 3rd-round pick this year out of Penn State. I think long-term, he is your answer at left guard, and Sewell probably kicks over to right tackle. But I don't know if that happens this year. And if McGovern impresses and Williams plays well, maybe you see Leo Collins get pushed to the side a little bit, and maybe even he becomes a trade chip. Now, for McGovern, he is coming off a torn pectoral. No surgery was needed, but that might limit him early in camp, which only makes it easier for Connor Williams, who has had an entire NFL offseason now, to keep his lead. And then the forgotten man, Xavier Su'a-Filo, who many of you liked a lot last year. I am still in the camp that Sewell was better than XFF, although XFF did play better than I thought. He was serviceable as a spot starter at offensive guard last year. But the pick of Connor McGovern, I think actually puts Su'a-Filo's roster spot in danger. Look at the Cowboys' offensive line. Your first 5 guys are going to stay. Fleming is going to stay. That's 6. Joe Looney, he's not going anywhere. Connor McGovern, he's not going anywhere. That's already 8 guys. You're already at the minimum. Now, you can carry 1 or 2 more players. Maybe it's Mitch Hyatt. Maybe it's Redmond. Su'a-Filo might get pushed to the side, especially if the Cowboys want Redmond and or an offensive tackle. So who should start at left guard? Type 1 for McGovern, 2 for Williams, or 3 for Xavier Su'a-Filo. Let me know in the comments section. I am open to McGovern starting at left guard, but that means I want Sewell at right tackle and Collins on his way out. McGovern and Williams are going to be two key parts of your long-term offensive line. I wouldn't mind them getting the field at the same time, but if I have to pick one, give me Sewell to start right now. Of course, training camp could change all of that, and even some preseason and regular season stuff as well. Moving now to the defensive line. I'll focus on defensive end here, sorry DTs. The Cowboys have great depth at the edge spots. Now, there are a handful of roster locks, but the biggest question mark is Randy Gregory. His unclear future really muddles the picture here. I don't know what it looks like week one because I don't know what Gregory's status is going to be. Because if he's eligible, he's on the team. Now, I'll make note here, I'll spend more time on this later. DeMarcus Lawrence going to miss the start of training camp. So here's your defensive end depth chart. I put 3 guys on there because I want all 9 on there, sue me. DeMarcus Lawrence, of course, is your number 1. Robert Quinn. Tyrone Crawford offers you some defensive end, defensive tackle hybrid ability there. We don't know what Gregory is. So you've got 2 locks, probably closer to 3 there if you include Crawford, in Tank, Quinn, and Tyrone. Who knows about Gregory? And then 5 guys battling for 2 spots? I don't know what the number is. Taco Charlton, Dorrance Armstrong, KERRY HYDER, Joe Jackson, and JALEN JELKS. Starting with KERRY HYDER here, put up great numbers in 2016. 8 sacks, 11 tackles for loss when he was a true defensive end. 2017 got hurt. 2018 played defensive tackle, and he was just out of position. Now, he does offer some inside-outside flex, but you want him at defensive end. Not a big name, but he is the type of guy who could impress at camp. He's got a first-round pick, former first-round pick, Taco Charlton. These are his career numbers. The Cowboys, historically, are very, very patient with their early draft picks. They will give them every single opportunity. They almost never cut bait early, but trends aren't always the same every single year. That might change with Taco Charlton. If he doesn't impress, there are too many bodies. Dallas might cut bait early. They also drafted somebody this year, 2 guys actually. First up, Joe Jackson out of Miami, part of the Jackson Bros the Cowboys took this year from the Hurricanes. Good size. I think he's got a chance to make the roster, but he also, by the way, has a lot of competition here. And Joe Jackson, a 5th-round pick, kind of fits a similar-ish mold as 4th-round pick Dorrance Armstrong, in the sense that they really are your typical 4-3 defensive ends. Now, Armstrong, he didn't show up much in his first year. Now, he said he feels better entering year 2, but of course, what else is he going to say? I do kind of believe him, though. But with all of this depth at defensive end, Dorrance Armstrong has to step up in camp and in the preseason. If he does it, he might get cut earlier. And I'll make note for Dorrance Armstrong and Jackson and Taco and everybody, although Taco's also banged up right now, they all benefit from DeMarcus Lawrence missing time. That means more reps for everybody else on that defensive end depth chart and more opportunities to show they deserve a roster spot. And then finally, JALEN JELKS out of Oregon, the 7th-round pick. Cowboys, I think, had a fairly high grade on him. Not quite as high as Daniel Wise, who Dallas had a 3rd or a 4th-round grade on, kind of like I did. They got as an undrafted free agent. But the Cowboys thought it was great value for JELKS. But again, it's a logjam here. So which 2 defensive ends are you cutting? And guys, this might be 3 defensive ends if Randy Gregory's able to go in week 1. So which 2 are you cutting? Taco, Joe Jackson, JALEN JELKS, KERRY HYDER, or Dorrance Armstrong? I think most of you will pick JALEN JELKS as an option to be cut. And also, by the way, stay tuned for Thursday's live show. I got a rumor/idea out there that might find a way to get JALEN JELKS on the roster, but you got to stay tuned for Thursday's show to find out what that is. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Meanwhile, linebackers, they're next up here. I don't have a lot here, to be honest. There's some UDFAs, but we know the top 3. I'm going to focus on Chris Covington here. The core is in great shape overall, but the Cowboys kept Covington on the line on the roster last year, and he barely played. Their plan and their goal is to make Covington, a former quarterback, by the way, at Indiana, into the long-term strong side linebacker. Has the build for it, 6'2", 245, but he didn't play much last year. I kind of get the vibe he's behind others, Joe Thomas, Justin March-Lewis on the pecking order. And maybe one of those UDFA surprises. Maybe it's Kyle Cairo, a UDFA from last year. Luke Gifford out of Nebraska. Maybe it's Nate Hall out of Northwestern. In terms of the depth chart there for linebacker, there are other options. I think Dallas will keep 6 as opposed to 7 like they did last year. But I'm just not sure if Covington's going to be the guy. I didn't think he was going to make it last year. The Cowboys kept him for a reason. I'm very curious how it all plays out there in terms of that really 52nd, 53rd, 51st spot on the Cowboys' active roster. Today's show was brought to you guys from our friends over at MyBookie. Get over to chatsports.com/Cowboys and use that promo code GOCowboys for a 100% deposit bonus. You put down $50, they're going to give you another $50 for free. That's the best betting deal out there. Chatsports.com/Cowboys. Promo code is GOCowboys. And a pro tip for you, too. Bet against the Giants. They're not going to be good this year. Moving now to cornerback, and I kind of spent too much time thinking about this one. Maybe it's Michael Jackson, maybe it's Donovan Olumba, maybe it's Chris Westry, but I'm going to go with Jordan Lewis because Byron Jones is out for the start of training camp. Now, Lewis does not fit the Chris Richard mold, which bothers me because he's a really good player, I think. But with Jones out, that puts Lewis into that starting 3, if you want to include Nichols there. And if he plays really well in camp and in the preseason, maybe he can force his way into more consistent playing time. But the Cowboys do have 4 solid cornerbacks. Byron Jones was great last year, did decline a little bit. Chidobe Awuzie had his moments. And Anthony Brown, who I know many of you love to hate on, is actually a pretty damn good nickel cornerback. Now, I like Jordan Lewis more than Anthony Brown, but I'm not saying you should cut Brown to make room for Jordan Lewis. What I'm saying is you got to free Jordan Lewis. Get him on the field. So, if you agree with me, use hashtag FreeJordan. Let me know. I think it's time to free Jordan. I love him now. I'm not saying play him with because I think he's too small. But I believe in what Jordan Lewis brings to the team. We saw how good he was against the Saints. Find a way to get him on the field. Let's hashtag free Jordan. Moving now to safety. We're going back to the camp battle after being away from the past 2 times here. Strong safety job is open. Now, Jeff Heath is your favorite and your de facto starter for now because he knows the defense. The coaching staff trusts him despite all of his missed tackles, but it is still early. There is time for somebody else to emerge, and if somebody does emerge, the favorite is George ILOKA, who did not play much last year for Minnesota because Anthony Harris emerged out there at strong safety instead. But he's been a starter in the NFL before, and he's been at least an average one. And if I get 2017, 2016, 2015 George ILOKA, I'll probably take that over Jeff Heath. But we know how the Cowboys coaching staff feels about Heath. Now, I'll make note, it is not just a 2-man battle, even though it's a 2-man frontrunner race. Donovan Wilson and KAVON FRAZIER, and I guess technically Jamil Showers too, who I'm not going to spend any time on because he's not making the team this year. I would hope not. Are also in contention there. Now, Wilson is the rookie, 6th-round pick out of Texas A&M, but I think in reality, the Wilson battle is less about starting and more about beating out KAVON FRAZIER for that, in theory, your 4th safety spot, because you're going to have Xavier Woods. Even if he doesn't win the starting job, you're going to keep Jeff Heath. In theory, you'll keep George ILOKA. That leaves Wilson versus KAVON FRAZIER, 2 strong safety types. Now, FRAZIER had some chances last year, did have to deal with some illness stuff that kept him off the camp field for a while, but neither of them, I think, are true starters. But you do need a 4th safety, and maybe they have a breakout year. That's certainly plausible here. It's the NFL. Stuff happens like that all the time. But who do you want to start at strong safety? We did the poll last time around, and ILOKA did win. So let me know in the comments, who do you want at strong safety? Feel free to throw in Trey Boston. I'm sure we'll see some of those because I would love Dallas to add another safety. I don't know if they're going to, but I think that is something they should consider doing because that would help them out in a big, big way in the end. Let me know what you guys think. Who should start at strong safety for the Dallas Cowboys this upcoming year? Moving now to special teams. Brett Maher is the de facto kicker for now. Now, he was better than Dan Bailey was last year, but he wasn't better than prime Dan Bailey, you know? And I am surprised the Cowboys didn't bring in obvious competition to compete with MAHER, at least as of this point. Now, he was good on extra points, has the leg, and I think the Cowboys are emphasizing a strong leg a little bit more now at kicker. MAHER had a stronger leg than Dan Bailey did. I'll make note there, by the way. But for MAHER, he will be pushed, I think, by Casey Redfern. But I think Redfern, in the end, is really more of a puncher than he is a kicker, but he will get some kicker reps. So I am very curious how it's not really a kicker battle, but it also kind of is as it relates to special teams overall. I think MAHER is the favorite. I want more competition. I just don't know if we're going to get it, even if it is Casey Redfern for now. And yes, I will continue to always list Jeff Heath as your backup kicker. And then I'll briefly make note here as well before we finish up. Tony Pollard, Tavon Austin, I would hope those are your two main return men for the Cowboys in 2019. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.